Hi, everybody. Welcome today to Rethinking Breast Cancer on Screen. It's a community conversation on the hit FX show that's currently streaming on Disney Plus, Dying for Sex. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we're gathering today from many places, near and far, across lands that have long been cared for by Indigenous peoples. We are grateful and honored to call the traditional territories of many nations our home. We stand in ongoing solidarity and allyship with Indigenous peoples on these lands and beyond in their fight for land self-determination and decolonization. In the spirit of today's conversation, I want to highlight how much representation matters on screen and behind the scenes. And I'd love to acknowledge the vital work of the Shine Network Institute. It's an Indigenous women-led organization that's committed to challenging colonial narratives and supporting their sovereignty, stories, and screen-based careers of Indigenous women and gender-diverse creatives. Land acknowledgements are just the beginning, and it's something that we can act on as TV lovers here to support Indigenous-led media, storytellers, and organizations. They are actively reshaping the industry. Also, a pretty cool thing that you can do is tune into the new show that's on Netflix right now called North by North. It's hilarious, so fun, highly recommend, and a really great way to support Indigenous talent on screen. I'm going to put a link for the Shine Network in the chat right now here so everybody can say, oh, hi, everybody coming from everywhere. Woo! There we go. Link. Okay, doing things at once here. We're going to get there. Okay, welcome everybody to the space. I'm Jen. Please know that we may be addressing issues here that can be sensitive for you from wherever you're showing up to us as tonight. Perhaps you're dealing with a breast cancer diagnosis, wherever you're at with that. I think that we all know that you're never really over it. Perhaps you're a care partner or caregiver taking a moment for yourself to reflect on this complex experience. We see you. Perhaps you're a supportive friend who's open to sitting in the mess that comes with a cancer diagnosis. Thank you for being here. We aim for this to be a safe space, open to vulnerability. I know that we can't see you, but we feel you, and we encourage you to engage via the chat function. We also encourage you to prioritize your own well-being. So if some of our thoughts resonate with you tonight, some of them might not, that's okay. We're all coming at this from different stages of our journeys and lives. So if the session is landing too heavy for you right now, then please know it's okay to take a step back. The intent tonight behind the intent. I'm too excited. Look how excited I am. I'm like, I can't get it all out. The intent behind tonight's conversation is to use what we saw reflected in the show, Dying for Sex, as prompts to put words into our experiences, which can be extremely individual and unique. Dying for Sex details elements of the breast cancer experience in a way that I personally have not seen in mainstream television. And the buzz that's come from it, both from the broader breast cancer community and general audiences, I immediately saw it as a prompt to spark conversation around some of the unique needs for patients and caregivers that don't always, get this space to shine in. So as well, the impact that feeling seen has in knowing that you're not alone. That's a big one. So again, hi, I'm Jen. I'm a collaborator at Rethink Breast Cancer, a key collaborator and patient partner. I was diagnosed with incurable de novo stage 4 breast cancer 4 years ago. I consider myself to be very fortunate to have had access to treatment that has so far worked very well for me and allowed me to keep living very well. And while this series hits a little too close to home sometimes, I saw myself in this series as someone who's had to learn how to define what it means for me to live authentically and purposefully on my own terms, while also living in deep fear and uncertainty. And I would really love to introduce you to my friends who are joining us here today in this discussion. Will you please introduce yourselves and tell us one thing that the show has brought up for you as you see yourself? Julia, will you kick us off?
Yes, I will. Hi, everyone. My name's Julia. I go by she, her. So I was diagnosed at the age of 33, so 2 years ago, with stage 4 inflammatory breast cancer. So I was de novo. HER2 positive, yay. And while watching the show, I saw myself, for some obvious reasons, as Molly was someone who was stage 4, but also just seeing two really strong female friendships on the show is something I deeply connected with, as my circle of friends were extremely involved and really close to me throughout my whole cancer experience and continue to be. So, yeah, super happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Nicole. I was diagnosed or in 2023 at the age of 33. I was diagnosed with HER2 positive, ER positive, stage 2 occult breast cancer. And I love the show because I found that the humor is one thing I very much used and leaned on throughout my cancer experience. The dry humor, the dark humor sometimes of like this thing that you don't know what's going to happen, and assuming the outcomes that you don't want, and just how to navigate that with other people, something that I really leaned into in my cancer experience. So thanks for having me.
I guess I'll go next. So I was diagnosed with MBC in 2019. So technically, I've been living with this disease over the 5-year mark now. So yay, me! I'm one of those 30%, one of those 30 percenters. And similar to Nicole, I connected with this show because of that balance of the tragedy and the humor. And from the very beginning of my diagnosis, I tried to live in that sort of that in between, right? Because yes, it is a very serious thing, but also like you need to find the funny in a lot of it because the waiting gets really boring. So that's why I connected with the show.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly. I was first diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer in December 2017, and then in March 2020 with stage 4. So I too have been living for over 5, just over now, but 5 years with metastatic breast cancer. I really saw myself in the show. I really connected to Molly's struggle to heal from some of her past and her connection to, sorry, her commitment to self-discovery in an effort to try to live her most authentic life. So, and I want to say thank you. It's really a pleasure to be part of this group today.
Hi, everyone. My name's Andrea. I was diagnosed with stage 1 bilateral breast cancer in October of 2023. And I'm really pleased to be part of this conversation, and I'm grateful to be part of this conversation because I see myself in sort of two ways in the show. One is, of course, early on when Molly learns that her cancer has returned and she's metastatic. Obviously, as someone who's stage 1, that's the concern and the fear that I live with every day. And I saw myself in the caregiver role, in Nikki's role, having cared for my mom in the last 2 years of her life with breast cancer. So definitely grateful for all the perspectives we're going to hear today, and grateful that all of you made the time to come tonight.
Woo! We've been so excited to talk about this, by the way. Like, none of us have actually really talked about this yet. So, like, we are ready to get into it. So, let's go. They touch
We're
on
doing it live. We're
We're
doing
doing
it
it live. It's happening. If you want to get to, if you missed anything that we just said here, all of our bios are listed, I think, in the Eventbrite link that was sent to you, so you can check us out there. But yeah, let's jump into it. So, I know that I saw so much, honestly, just in the first 10 minutes of this show. I was hesitant to watch it at first. Even Margaret had mentioned it to us in a group chat, like, hey, this show's coming out. And I was like, let me guess, she has cancer and she's dying. No thanks. But then Michelle Williams obviously piqued my interest because she's a goddess. And I was like, okay, this is really interesting. What a headliner for Disney Plus. Cool. About a woman with metastatic breast cancer? Tell me more. Okay. And in just the first, what, like 10, 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to call it a few things that made my jaw start to drop. There's relationship building after cancer. the actual naming of drugs that are specific to Molly's type of cancer, as well as their common side effects, what it means to be diagnosed with a recurrence at stage 4 versus early stage. But I do want to start by centering in on her reaction when she was suddenly faced again with this breast cancer identity that she's actively trying to shed in therapy, and now learns that it's back. And she literally just runs away from Steve, who's called out for almost coming across as excited to jump back into his caregiver slash patient dynamic. Weird. And buys this soda that she knows he's going to hate. Have you friends, have you ever found yourself pushing back on being identified as a patient, or how others seemingly perceive you to act? What came up for this? What came up for you when you were faced with this identity shift? Margaret, I'm going to throw it to you first, since you really got us all into this.
I'm sorry that I wasn't enough to get you to watch the show just by myself. I guess Michelle Williams. Thank you. But yes, I remember being taken back. I'm like, oh no, Jen's gonna hate this show. But yes, the shedding the identity actually, when I got diagnosed, the funny thing is, like, I really, like, had that. I was 40 years old. I was in my sort of like in the prime of my life. I had just had a huge 40-year-old bash. Like, there was like a damn male dancer at my party. Like, there's like all this stuff going on, and then boom, like a month later, I have cancer, and actually finding out I was pregnant as well. But I remember like having such weird thoughts, because I was like, oh my God, people are not going to invite me to parties anymore. Like, that was one of my big fears, was not being invited to parties. Luckily, the universe sent me the pandemic. My biggest fear of not being invited to parties, while kind of everyone was going through the same thing. So, yeah, like, this kind of this cancer identity, and being invited to social events and interacting with people, that was one of my biggest fears when I was first diagnosed. So, yeah, definitely, that shift to being a cancer patient. Like, I remember having conversations with my friends. I'm like, just like, please, if there's anything going on, give me the opportunity to say no. Just invite me, and I'll come if I can, and just don't forget about me. And so, yeah, that resonated for sure.
Yeah, that's such a key element, I think, of just being like, please, like, let me be the one to make the decision on what I can or can't participate in. Yeah. Julia, do you have any thoughts to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I think it was in the first episode where Molly mentions the cancer pity face. And the first thing that came to my mind was my sweet yeah. So my little Greek grandmother. Even so, I've been like, yeah, I obviously not obviously, but I still have to go for treatment and all that kind of stuff. And I find that every time I speak to her or see her in person or on the phone, her eyes just start to fill up. Like both of my grandparents, they're like just fluttered with sadness. And like I had to tell my mom, like, can you tell them to like not look so sad? Like it makes me really sad because it's like I don't feel that way. But I get that it's hard for them. And then when I was first diagnosed, I actually felt a lot of shame. Like I felt like I got cancer because it was my fault because of how I enjoyed my 20s. And I was like, oh, it's because this. And if I start telling people, I don't want people to be like, well, you got cancer because you partied too much or you did this, you didn't take care of yourself. So for the longest time, actually only my immediate circle knew. And anytime I like, a lot of people actually didn't even know I was sick, even though I was posting my beautiful bald head and I had no eyebrows. Like a lot of people actually like my extended circles didn't notice. And then as I was starting to get comfortable and like telling people, I could see, their whole face changed. And so I've kind of just like I'll sometimes even now, like, don't bring it up. Like, I'll put it out on my social media because I find it's easier for me to control the narrative and control what I share. And like, I rather receive someone's reaction as a like or a this or a quick little message back. Um, than yeah, having like someone just look really sad, even though like I'm trying to tell you my that I'm diagnosed and like this is what's happening. And like I'm actually like at a point now where I'm okay with it. I'm comfortable to talk about it. And like I'll talk about it and then quickly make a joke after because I don't want someone to look at me with those sad eyes or ask any scary questions that I don't really want people to ask. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about you all, but I was pretty bombarded with a lot of uh, unsolicited advice on things, and I think everybody means really well, but it can be a little bit overwhelming on top of overwhelm. And I remember having a similar reaction to Molly, where I'm like, I can't eat or drink any of those things. I'm gonna drink and eat all of them like immediately. So when I saw her reach for that soda, I just could not stop laughing. I was like, I get it. I get that feeling of going for like the grossest thing that you possibly can.
The cigarette, like, yeah, I smoked a couple for sure. Obviously not when I was pregnant, but after.
This is a
Protect the
judgment-free
baby.
zone. Okay.
Maybe dabbled in a little bit of recreational cannabis to get me through. And it was like, I know I'm not supposed to be smoking, but right now it's what I can do. And I will, I'll figure that piece out later. Or sometimes it was like, you know what, instead of eating healthy meals, let's just go grab some chicken nuggets because we just need to dip our fries in a McFlurry and move on.
Oh my gosh. Also, on the subject of identity, it's like kind of when, I don't know, wherever you're at, even I was in long-term treatment for MBC through a clinical trial, but I found that there was a point where very fortunately, I feel very fortunate to say this, that the crisis started to melt away a little bit, and I became a little bit more adjusted to what the routine was at the hospital now, and when I could plan things around that. And I took time off of work when it all kind of came at me because it was really terrible. But then I did start going back to work, and this was also kind of as the pandemic was calming down a little bit, and work functions were a thing again, and community gathering was a thing again. And I remember going to a work function and just being like, this is stupid. Why am I here? Everybody can see it on my face, because I had gone public on my Instagram and just been like, like, this is what I'm going through, and everybody knew. And I felt like I wanted to literally die in a corner. And I was angry at people who like would come up and talk to me about it in this setting, but then also angry if they didn't acknowledge it. And so I'm just saying, like, flat out, there was no winning for anybody in the situation. And did anybody else relate to like this feeling of this trying to get back to a forced normalcy? Like, what did it look like when you took this new cancer identity out into the world for a first time beyond your immediate circles?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I definitely, I was very open about my diagnosis, if only because I'm single and live alone and needed my friend network. I needed them. I needed them for just a few weeks, even of basic tasks that I couldn't do post surgery and whatnot. So I was very open right away. And mercifully, I didn't get hit too hard with unsolicited advice or, poor choices of words and that sort of thing. I think when I was off work for a few months and then I was able to go back and start socializing and doing everything else. That's been the harder part, is sort of the survivorship part of it, the getting back to life. Surgery scars. Again, I'm single, so I'm in the dating world. Being very self-conscious about my body, even though my scars aren't that prominent and it's all okay. But and when do you tell someone that you have had cancer? How relevant is that when you start dating someone new, right? will that word scare them? Do I have to, and this could be with anybody, make sure everyone knows, oh, but I was diagnosed early stage. Don't worry, don't worry. And though I worry every day about recurrence, I try and make other people not worry about it. And even I changed jobs, after treatment, and I wanted to tell my new boss, because of course I go for scans and whatnot, and here I am as a key collaborator with Rethink, and I just wanted to sort of for him to know. And I was so nervous telling him. I thought he's going to think he hired damaged goods, that he's going to regret hiring me. He's a wonderful man, and he would never actually, I think that or say that to me, but that's your fear, is that someone's going to look at you as damaged goods in some way. And that's where I'm at, bringing myself back out into the world. Is, am I damaged goods? Am I past my prime? Am I past my best before date? So that's a struggle.
Yeah. I'm not laughing at you while you talk through that. I'm like thinking back to the scenario in Dying for Sex where she's in the elevator and she's like planning to like make a pounce on hot earbud guy. And then, and then she's like, what are you going to show him your mastectomy scars? What are you going to ask him for his number afterwards? Something like that.
Yep.
Nicole, I might throw it to you just to say hi. Do you have any thoughts to add in the part on identity and working your way through the cancer?
Yeah, I think like earlier someone said like the idea of shedding the identity. I think like, she had the diagnosis. Now she's trying to reclaim herself and like in that shed this cancer identity. But even as a person who's technically completed active treatment, like that identity follows you everywhere you go. Like you were saying earlier, Jen, it's like you want people to know, but you don't want them to know. It's like it's good that you know, it's bad that you know. It's just that like this tug of war that you play with yourself and the people around you, because you think that like, oh, I'm gonna finish and then I'm gonna resume my life and pick up where I left off, but you're an entirely different person. And that cancer has informed a lot of that person who you are now and will continue to become. So even if you may not disclose it to other people, you will always have that identity with you. And maybe some people are very good at compartmentalizing, but we've just come out of winter. That could not be me. I was sitting in it a lot this winter, and like little things, bring up these feelings again. So I just think that, there is no like returning to normal. And even to Andrea's point on like feeling like damaged goods, 100%. I too am a single woman. And, just I think last weekend, my cousin was like, oh, your hair's grown a little bit more. Have you thought about like starting the dating apps again? I said, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I deleted all of them because I'm not there yet in terms of how to navigate this conversation with people. And honestly, right now, the world is so messy that something that you think people would bring their humanity into, I do not trust people to bring their humanity to. And I just need to protect myself. And I'm just not inviting that into my experience right now.
Fair. Yeah, that's great. I understand entirely. And then once you've kind of like figured out who you are with cancer, the next challenge might be learning how to speak up for yourself as an individual in this new world of doctors and charts. So like going back to sort of being newly diagnosed, I guess, versus after. And I thought of this section, I was inspired of this section by when Molly goes, I want you to sit next to me, Jerry. And I was like, oh, ooh.
The bed tap.
I can't even imagine calling my oncologist by their first name, but I love it. And I might try it in the future. We'll see what happens. She starts to get a little more into the details of this new treatment plan, and she learns how to listen to her body and ask for what she wants and needs, even when it's challenging the doctor's orders or against what other people think that she should be doing. And I'm curious, like, what tools have helped you listen and speak up since your diagnosis in that sort of a setting, or even like in retrospect, now that we've all been at this for some time, like what do you wish you had done differently? Kelly, would you
I
like
can
to?
speak to that, yes.
Love to hear
So
your
I
thoughts.
think one of the biggest tools for me was connection to the community. There is such a plethora of shared experience, shared lived experience, and a wealth of knowledge. And, connecting into that and being able to read or listen to other people share their stories, especially stories about self-advocacy or stories of being medically gaslit, and seeing numerous times and how in different ways how people were able to deal with that was really empowering for me and gave me examples of what I could do. And I remember one time I was seeing with a fellow and they were completely dismissing the symptoms that I was telling them, and they were gaslighting me. And because I was able to see that through other people's experience, like I was able to recognize it right away. I was like, oh no, you're not doing that to me, right? And I really pushed back, and she really had a lot of trouble. Like she was kind of saying like, well, I said so, don't you believe me? And so that part was really very, very beneficial and empowering. And I also too found through through listening to people's experiences and that, like, sometimes they had ideas, excuse me, or things that they were had done that I had no clue of. Like I was like, what? You can ask for that? And like an example of that is like you can ask to have a break from your treatment to go on vacation and have a good time. Like, really? So it's very empowering. That's been one of the most helpful things for me. I didn't do that with my early stage breast cancer, so I really noticed the difference between having a connection and not.
I have to echo that. I didn't know you could do that idea. I truly only learned I could do that once I got into this group here at Rethink. So, like, I would say, I'm like, I didn't really practice any agency. I just trusted that the doctors were doing what was best in my best interest. I know otherwise now, just through the hearing the lived experiences of other people, that like you should poke holes and you should get opinions and you should take it upon yourself. It's so sad to even say that you should do these things because you would hope that the healthcare you're receiving is taking a look at your specific case and all of your details and with your best interests at heart. But I was like naive and also very tired. Like, I think I dissociated through a lot of my treatment. I was like, I just want to get this over with. Where do I need to be and at what time? But even thinking through this, there was one moment that I did advocate for myself. And now I was diagnosed in 2023, which was in the winter. However, the summer was the summer of the Renaissance. And when I was diagnosed, Beyonce's Renaissance tour tickets had just dropped. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm going to be here, in 6 months. I know nothing. I didn't know my staging. I didn't know anything. I just knew cancer. So I didn't get tickets. And once I finally got my schedule and my chemo schedule, I had chemo on the Wednesday and Beyonce's concert was the Saturday in Toronto. It was like, I cannot do that. But I spoke to my oncologist because I was like, I want to go see Beyonce and like waiting for the reaction to see what they would say about that. And I did get tickets to go see her, and they were really supportive of me doing something that was personally fulfilling and would bring joy. There were definitely some parameters that they suggested, like please wear a mask when you're out there, because it was still like pretty COVID-y times. But I'm so glad that I spoke up and said that that was something that I wanted to do, because with I had their blessing. I felt better going into that space and knowing like, okay, let me just wear a mask. I didn't get seats in the pit because I knew like I can't stand for that long. I was having like the myalgia and arthralgia, like your feet tingling and your fingertips tingling, like couldn't feel my feet sometimes and my toes. So it was nice for me to have the option to sit down. So I'm just so glad, because that was such a life-changing experience getting to see Beyonce, the anointed one. And just like I felt I came back, I worked throughout my entire cancer treatment, and I was like, I'm healed. There's no more cancer in my body. Beyonce's taken it all. So yeah, I'm really glad that I did advocate for myself to like be able to do that. And I didn't know that was an option, beforehand.
If anyone can do that, it's Beyonce.
Beyonce knows Carter.
Yeah. And on that note, like, I think that's such an important thing to acknowledge, is that emotional toll. I know we talk all the time, like, you have to be your own self advocate. You have to be your own self advocate, and you do. It's true, but we can just say out loud how exhausting that is as well, on top of a lot. And I'm curious if anyone has any tips on balance for that. That need to be heard with the emotional toll that comes with constantly having to explain or justify yourself. Julia?
The first thing that kind of comes to mind is, and I saw someone drop it in the chat. And by the way, there's so much good stuff going on in the chat. So, like, kudos to everyone for just like dropping your thoughts and feelings. It's definitely the right space to do that. But Molly's inner monologue is something that I really resonated with, because I'm not really someone that, I mean, I'm very vocal, and those folks that know me know I'm very opinionated. But in some spaces, I'm a little bit more reserved and a bit more quiet. And really early on in my diagnosis, and meeting my oncologist and all that kind of stuff, there was a point where, and my parents were extremely supportive, but there was a point where it was actually this random lady I met when I was picking up my drugs at the pharmacy. She was like, just get up, like, go there and like say what you need to, like, don't be afraid to like ask the pharmacist for what you need. And that lady does not know, but she fully changed my life, because I couldn't be sitting through these appointments and stuff, and like I'm thinking, what do I want to ask, what do I want to say? And so I just tried, like, I would tell my parents, like, just, if you're gonna talk, like, when the oncologist comes in, there's no more talking from either of you, or you need to leave the room, because I want to be able to say things. And even sometimes my oncologist intimidates me. Like today, we had a very difficult conversation, one I've been avoiding with her for a couple of months. And I was just like, I have to ask her. If it's not now, like, I'm not going to be able to, like, I needed to ask her this question. And it was like, I can't be afraid of her. Like, I'm not afraid of my oncologist. That usually her and I get along very, very well. But it was like, I just need to do it. And one time I did kind of throw a fit in the lab, because I got really sick and tired of telling everybody at the hospital that I go to that I'm allergic to the alcohol swabs and these other swabs that they use, that they were insisting that I'm not allergic to. And I just got up, went over to oncology, shouted out to the nurses, being like, can someone give me some iodine? And thankfully, the head nurse comes out being like, is that Julia? And I explained to her what happened. And she's like, take this bottle, bring it over to them, so that every time you go in, they know. So after this little scene that I made in the lab, which usually I'm always very cordial with everybody, but I was like, enough is enough. Like, I'm the one that has to deal with this rash for 2 to 3 weeks. And this is the hospital. Like, so I would start making jokes with them to be like, do I need to buy everyone in the hospital iodine so that everyone has it? This way, if anyone else comes in with a skin allergy. So it's literally that one lady at the pharmacy who was like, you need to like just create space for yourself. And like that inner monologue of me being like, I shouldn't ask my oncology. Like, I know what she's going to say, and like what she's going to say is going to upset me. And it was just like, I need to ask her this question, because the time for me to ask her is running out. So it was a bit of just like, I kind of just needed to sometimes shut people out who were trying to be helpful. And I just needed to like let the sweat come out and just ask it. And then so now that I've like been speaking up, I find I'm way more comfortable when I go into certain situations where I'm like, actually, this is what I need. Like, I'm not afraid to tell the nurses, hey, I think you moved my port, or like you pulled the needle too hard. I think it's rocky. So I've just been like, the more I tell them, the more then they can help me. And then I'm also just making these things aware for other patients. So it's like, oh, if you find out another patient is having a skin allergy, then like maybe suggest iodine, because that that's what I live by in oncology. So it took a while, and like there's still more learning for me, to grow and be more comfortable in certain things. But it's like I need to take the inner monologue out, because if my team doesn't hear me, then they can't help me and they can't help other folks. So I just gotta like bite the bullet. And if I need to do a pep talk, then I need to do a pep talk.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to the pharmacy lady.
Shout out pharmacy lady.
We're at the pharmacy. She changed my life.
Yes, I mean, healthcare practitioners and nurses are sweet angels from heaven, and bless them for the work that they do, and thanks for all of that. But it's one of those, it's definitely a learning practice to be like, oh, let me help you. Like let's do this. Like we're in this together. Like you're tired. You've been here for a really long shift. How can I best effectively let you know what I need in this moment right now? Because we are not all the same. Yeah. And moving into not facing cancer alone and having a team and support system. I mean, a lot falls on our shoulders, but it's not always up to us. Alongside these heavy choices, there's also this presence of our support systems, which are chosen family and family, friends, people who show up in a beautiful, complicated, and sometimes unexpected way. Um, I loved the dynamic between Nikki and Molly throughout the show so much. Uh, I'm inspired by that quote from Nikki where she's like sitting with her sister and like having a moment to herself where she's like, "Are you still pregnant or is this a new baby?" Because she's like so absorbed in this world with Nikki or with Molly. And I just think this is such an important part of the conversation. Like, what does friendship through cancer and showing up look like for you all, my friends?
I loved it. It was so true to, I think, even like my experience, what I was seeing on screen. Like that meaningful time together is so important. You feel like all people see when they look at you as cancer, that you just want someone to see you and treat you as something else. So even like, we're not even going to talk about it. We're just going to go in bed and we're going to cuddle and we're just going to hang out. We're going to do little silly things. Like, um, having somebody who just understands you and you don't have to explain anything to, like giving myself a break of having to explain my diagnosis. What is my treatment plan? What is treatment? What is chemo? Like it's exhausting to, at least personally, to always be repeating these things. And so like I found for me, I had a really great network of friends. Shout out to Nicholas in the UK. He, we have like a 5-6 hour time difference, and he would, I'm like the FaceTime queen. And I think my cancer experience reinforced that, but he was on FaceTime with me all the time. We do mundane things. We will clean our kitchens. We will watch different television shows on our different couches in different time zones, but just having somebody there who was always present, and like literally just keeping me company was the greatest gift ever. Because like it just felt safe, it felt secure, it was comforting, and I didn't really have to talk about the cancer, even though I was living with and like dealing with the cancer actively in those moments.
Yeah, I'll have to echo Nicole. As soon as the show, like I first started watching it, I immediately texted my best friend being like, we need to watch the show together, even though we still have not, but it's on my like list of things for us to do. But like my friends, like my family was there for me, but there's something about like strong like bonds with your friends, your chosen family. Like, I had a couple of my friends, they came with me to get my MRI. Like after I got my first PIC line, they were with me, and that my friend, they took me out. They would come over and help my sister like make meals. Like my family was there, but it was easier sometimes just to talk to my best friends and say like, this is what's going on, and like, or sometimes not. Like I know there was a point where I kind of got tired of having to explain things to them, because it was, I think, a lot for them and they didn't really understand what was happening. But like my friends didn't treat me any differently. Like I think once they saw that like I was starting to make jokes about my experience and what I was going through with cancer, then sometimes they would remind me and be like, and again, like some people might be upset about this, but within my circle of friends, like it was greatly appreciated, where they would be like, Julia, you can't blame cancer, or like, you need to, like, we are going away for your birthday, even if it's something small and like whatever. So I found like my friends were always there for me. And I don't know what it is about the UK, Nicole, but I have one friend she lives there, and she ended up flying to Toronto, and literally we spent one day together because she was so afraid and had left her like newborn for the first time. Yeah, it was just like it made me appreciate my friends more. Like I've always thought like, oh, there's no one really there for me. Like I have a lot of friends, but as I was watching the show, I saw like my core girlfriends there and my partner there. They were, we went through this together, even though I was the one going through it, but I really leaned on them in the hard times. And they were always there to like cheer me up and help remind me that like you are amazing and you're more than just cancer. And like this isn't your fault. Like you didn't ask for any of this, and it is just the way it is. So I like that's why I think I really not I think I love the show so much because of the bond between Nikki and Molly. I see myself and my girls, like that's us, like you know like they're there for me, and they always make sure I have the space to speak up because they know sometimes I could be a little, just in my little shell. And so yeah, there's some, and it was so refreshing. I keep telling everyone this, like even if you have no connection to cancer, like the show, the way it just it in like the way it just displayed female friendship with like dating, and like I'm just imagining me and my friends talking about having sex or this weird thing that happened with this guy, and it's like, yeah, you could just be your true best self and talk shit and tell them like this embarrassing story that happened, and it's like it's fine, they're not going to judge you, they'll laugh with you and cry with you and mop your floor because you can't. Which was weird seeing my friend be like, I'm going to wash your dishes. I'm like, no, you're not. And she's like, oh, yes, I am. And just starts washing. And I'm like, I'm just going to let her take the broom. She wants to sweep, go ahead, because I definitely do not. So,
Yes.
yeah.
That's really helpful as well, is not, I would get a lot of, I'm so grateful to everybody who showed up in my life and supported, but I would get a lot of like, what can I do? And I'm like, don't make me tell you. I don't
Just
know,
do
but if
it.
you show up with
Fuck off.
something or an offering, that's helpful right now. But I literally have no capacity to make any more decisions and delegate to anyone. And you bring up a lot in terms of just that helps, I think, with the cancer identity. I have a core memory of going away to a cottage with my husband and my best friend Lauren, really early on after a really whirlwind first few months. It was the first time I got to go away from it all, and we just played board games and made nachos, and I talked about it when I felt like talking about it. I didn't talk about it when I didn't feel like talking about it, and that was honestly such a pivotal moment for me to just be like, oh, I can still have a normal life-ish, so grateful for that. And then in terms of the caregiver dynamics, I mean, we see so much that Nikki puts into this, and so much not that's asked of her, but that the responsibility, the deep responsibility that she sort of takes on for becoming the key caregiver to Molly. And I'm curious how this portrayal resonated with you all, since we're on the care, but we also have caregivers with us. So Andrea, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I was a caregiver to my mom for, I mean, she had a couple of breast cancer diagnoses when I was young, and I wasn't involved in her care. I couldn't even tell you. I knew she was on tamoxifen, so I assumed that she was like me, ER/PR positive, but there was so much I didn't know. And when it had come back and had spread, and I was taking her to every single appointment and every scan and every treatment, then I was really in the thick of it with her, and really understood, all the details. I moved back in with my mom, so Nikki going to be with Molly is very familiar to me. I was able to maintain my job at the time. I was a shift worker, so I could keep working weekends so that I could have weekdays off. Like my weekend would be Thursday, Friday. And I told Princess Margaret that that's when all my mom's appointments had to be, or most of them, so that I could work and then just concentrate everything in those days as we were able. And luckily, I was able to arrange that. But the amount of time and the quote that we have talked about Nikki saying, I don't get a break and I don't want a break. And that's 100 million% true. This was my mom, and I would be caring for her still if she was alive and that's what she needed. And if this went on for, 20 years, it didn't matter how long it was going on. This is my time with her. This is me honoring her and all she did for me as a baby and a kid and all the raising and the work that goes into that. That was my way of honoring that in what little way I could. And I think watching Nikki struggle with her relationship and her job, that does hit home, because certainly all of us as patients or caregivers, we experience that. But when Nikki leaves her boyfriend, I had broken up with my boyfriend about a year before my mom's cancer had returned. And I remember saying to my brother while I was caring for my mom, he lives in New York, so he wasn't as involved day to day. I said, I'd really sometimes regret breaking up with him because I'd have someone to support me through this process. And my brother said, I don't think your relationship would have survived you caregiving for mom and moving back in with her and whatnot. Now, we don't know if that is true or not, because that's not the path I took. But it certainly, to see Nikki, basically have to step away from this relationship in order to do what she felt she needed to do for Molly. That hits home about the toll that caregiving can take on every aspect of your life. She loses the job, right? The theater job that she had, the role. It really spells it out. And though, to be very clear, there's no caregiver who regrets it or wishes they didn't have to do it. I mean, you wish you didn't have to do it so that the person who has cancer, you just wish they didn't have cancer for them, but you don't in any way ever question that this is what you're going to do: step in and caregive and be there. So that bond, that relationship, even though it was friends and not mother-daughter, definitely very realistic.
Yeah. Kelly, did you have any thoughts to add there?
So I had a lot of conflicting thoughts about the caregiving aspect. So I completely can identify with everything that Andrea just said, and like Nikki, about really wanting to be there for the people that you love. And I think caregiving is love in action. Like, that's what I've always felt about about that. But on the flip side, as being a patient, and the thought of my husband having to do that for me, instead of viewing it as like love in action, like I know intellectually that's it, but because I love him and care for him so much, I don't want that reality for him. So then I kind of, like, my terminology around it changes. Like, instead of being love, it's like burden and obligation and sacrifice. And I know that that's not really what it is, but I just feel so passionately that I don't want that to be his experience. And I also worked in long-term care and in complex continuing care, and I watched my mother care for my dad through MS for 30 years. So I also have observed a lot of people, like hundreds of people, be caregivers. And I think that there's, like, caregiver burnout is real, and it can be really detrimental to not just the caregiver but the patient as well. So I'm a big believer that caregivers need care, they need compassion, they need support too. And I think that there's, like, you want to strive for a balance between expressions of love but self-preservation at the same time. And I don't know if that's possible. And I don't know what that looks like for everyone, because like Andrea said, of course you want to spend every minute with that person. You want to do everything. You don't want to look back and regret saying, "Oh, like, I went to the football game that time instead of staying there." But sometimes you need to do that to be the best caregiver in the times that you are there. So yeah, I had a lot of conflicting thoughts, but I thought it was so beautifully portrayed in the series. Like, that's the ideal, right? Like, that's what you can work towards, but with a few days off.
Yeah.
I just want to add that obviously that relationship is so strong, but I definitely saw myself in it too. My best friend had that bag that bag she had it literally had every piece of junk in that bag, and it was always open all over the place. She's going through it. So yeah, I that was like definitely one part of the story that stuck out for me. That was very, very true. I was like, oh my God. By the way, yeah, my BFF, she's in UK as well. So I don't know
No
what
way.
I don't know what that means. She after taking care of me, she peaced out. So
Maybe we'll have to do one of these talks as a co-pro sometime.
yeah.
Go across the pond. I love that. Yeah, I can relate very much to the losing of the disc in the bag. I could see it coming because they were setting it up with the bag, and I was like, "Oh my God, if you lose that," I had to bring that disc from one side of Canada to the other to home when I was switching hospitals, and it felt like we brought it on the plane. I was like, "For the love of God, like no matter what happens, I cannot lose this disc. Like this, it's everything." And Kelly, you touched on that feeling of just wanting to be present for as much as you can with the people you love. And I think that that segues into sort of the grief anticipatory confrontations with mortality, because loss is just so coincided with this tragic documentary, and it's something, or sorry, tragic story, and just something that you can't not think about when it's there. So it's not easy at any stage of the game, but it's certainly not easy when you're a young person going through cancer at what should be the prime of your life. And throughout the show, Molly speaks frankly about her impending death, but she also embraces life with urgency and clarity. And what do you wish more people understood about living with a constant presence of mortality that comes along with a cancer diagnosis? I call this part of the conversation, well, fuck, Amy, now we need you.
It's so funny because, like, up until receiving a cancer diagnosis, I was not somebody that thought more than a couple years ahead. Like, never thought about retirement, never really thought about death. Maybe I just had like one thought, like, if I go, I go, that's it. Never really thought about it. And now I'm like constantly thinking about it. And then, like, this might resonate with some folks and it might not with others, but I've created, like, I just find it not funny, but I attach myself to funny situations, if that makes sense. So, like, in my head, at least once or twice a week, I'm like, oh, well, if there's an apocalypse or like something, well, that means there's going to be like, I won't have any treatment. So I'll slowly, like, my time will come and like, I will just, I will part from the earth, but I don't have to deal with like the rebuilding of civilization. Or and I'm like thinking like apocalypse, like, things you see in movies, because I'm like, I don't really want to be in like the restart of civilization and like people, like, that's not my vibe. So I'm sometimes like, okay, if then at least I just, like, that's it, I just go on peacefully. I constantly make jokes sometimes about like death, or I have a habit of not saving money and spending everything on traveling. And so my family's like, you need to save. And I'm like, for what? Like, why am I going to save? Put my money in a RSP. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to use it at 65. And then they're going to try to tax me, like all this stuff. So I've just kind of like, I'll bring it up and like make a joke about it. And my friends are like, Julia, stop. And I'm like, it is what it is. If you don't think it's funny, that's fine. But like, I do. Like, I'm talking about my own life, and like, who knows what's going to happen. Um, and actually, when I ended up, there was this time where I was able to go to the UK to visit my friend, and we were talking, and she has her own set of situations, and she's already planned her whole funeral. And I was like, huh? Like, I never even thought of that. And she tells me how like every year she makes a new video adjusting. And I was like, what? And so it was just like bizarre. I thought it was like, so like, I never even thought about it. And then I found myself like going through the shit list, and just trying to think, oh yeah, like, you know, like, I need to make a will, but like I don't really have anything, like I don't have any money, so where's it gonna go? But it's like, no, well, I have a very special necklace, and like, do I want that to be buried with me or not? Do I want to give it to somebody? Like, I have things. So I find that like it's death is on my mind a lot, but it's always tied to, like, it's like when I was watching the show, And I know I was watching the show and I found myself so attached to Molly and Nikki and the whole, like, all the different layers of the show being like, okay, well, what, like, I actually Googled, is there a season two? Like, what else is going to happen? And then it really hit me that it's like, oh shit, like, this isn't a fairy tale show that has a nice ending. And like, while watching the show, I actually started to like see myself like in Molly. It's like, oh, well, like, what if I stop doing my treatment? Like, what's like, what's going to happen? Like, what are the side effects? Like, I never really paid much attention to palliative care. And I know it's come up in some of the spaces I've been in to just like, just really explaining a bit more what it is. So I've added it to my shit list things to do to like look into palliative. I can't even say
Palliative care,
it.
which
Palliative
is a
care.
very scary word, and
It
they call
is.
it out in the show, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean. It can
Yeah,
mean doing what's best for you with where you're at right now, and it can be an incredible tool that we need to not be so scared of and associate immediate death with, because it's
exactly.
an important stream at the hospital and definitely causes a lot of anxiety. And you touched on the shit list, which is a resource at Rethink Breast Cancer that you can go to if you're like, okay, I should probably get some affairs in order or help someone get some affairs in order, or if that feels like the right thing to do right now. And this is a list of concrete actionable items that you can start to focus in on that might help you sleep at night. Maybe, it's like not things that we want to be thinking about as, again, young people with cancer, but like things like wills and stuff like that is really important. So resources on that are available. Yeah, and I fully relate. And what I appreciated too, I think, about the show was, I think everything that I've seen in the media when you're dying of cancer tells you to go travel the world and like do all these bucket list things real big. And I was like, that's cool. And I have the urge to definitely do all of that. However, I am going to leave my family in copious amounts of debt. So I need to reel it back as well. And I thought they were so real in what they were able to do with the resources that they had on the show. Molly moves into a shitty apartment, yada, yada. But yeah. We are running out of time, my friends. We have so much stuff to cover still, but this is wild. So I think I'll just cap it off here. Maybe we'll do a part 2 one day. Who knows? That would be wonderful. But I was very inspired by. We haven't even touched on this yet, but Dying for Sex is based on the true story of a real podcast of a real Molly and a real Nikki. And in the show, the host Nikki Boyer touches on how Molly wasn't focused on how she was going to die. She was focused on how she wanted to live. And that's sort of the core theme that really takes us through the whole show and what made it tangible for me as somebody who doesn't like to think about dying because it's a little too real sometimes. But it wasn't a show about dying. It's a show about being alive and what that means, whatever the circumstances, however much time we have. And that's a universal subject for everybody. So I'd love to hear from each one of you before we part tonight. What does feeling alive look like for you? Nicole.
Feeling like I'm alive. I'm thinking
Yeah.
Celine Dion. When you call on me. Um, I feeling alive is getting back to the things I used to love to do, but in new ways. So one of the things, and I love Julia, you mentioning, I think, a couple of us went to the UK. I also sneaked off to the UK after I finished radiation, like right after. I was exhausted, but I did it. And I'm really trying to get back into my travel bag. The energy levels are not what they used to be. I'm not no spring chicken. I can't go to the hostels and like walk 30,000 steps every day, but definitely getting back into travel and discovering new places. The world is so big. There's so much culture to experience, and I've only scratched the surface. So that's what I'm trying to get back into.
I love it. Also, yes, this isn't goodbye, everybody. There's a little surprise that might take us a little bit longer, but I still want to hear from everybody. Margaret, what does being alive look like for you?
Yeah, to me, honestly, like being alive is just having vision having something to look forward to. So having a project, having a plan, having, even if it is even if it is something short term, it's just like having that ability and that freedom to like, okay, today, even if it's for a day, today, these are the kind of things that I want to do, doing stuff that you want to do, and having like a hope and vision for something in the near future, or maybe in the long future. And just having that, like that ability to have that feeling, right? Because a lot of cancer patients get that taken away. I remember losing my vision, my life vision. Obviously, I didn't lose my vision, but yeah, I was very, very glad to get it back, even if it had massively changed, right? Shortened or whatever, but just having that view. So yeah, that's what being alive is to me.
Kelly, one line or two.
Sorry. Yeah, being alive to me is, or feeling alive is connection. So that's to people and to nature, and it's growth, learning, and creating.
Love it. Andrea?
I hate to fall back on cliche, but it's appreciating and noticing and being grateful for all the little things that make up every day that you took for granted all before your diagnosis. I've had other health issues, took walking for granted, and that you just go, like the simple things are what are the building blocks of life. And you actually really need to recognize and enjoy and embrace and lean into the basics. So.
Julia, did you go?
No, I didn't. But I will say, like, echoing a lot of what everyone else has already said. But I think one thing for me is just like experiencing all of the human emotions and just enjoying my time on Earth. And yeah, I just want to enjoy like well, I shouldn't say every, but would love to enjoy like a lot of the good and bad experiences of just being present and engaging with the world. And sometimes it's okay to just, I have to remind myself it's okay to stay at home and not talk to anybody and not leave the house for a couple of days, because that's what I need to do to then show up the next day and then just have an amazing day and a great experience and hold on to it. So I think sometimes the days are sad, but that's okay. But the fun ones make up for the bad days. So
They sure do. Yeah, it's so true. It's okay to have bad days. That's very much a part of this. Even though you like want to make the most of what you got, sometimes it's okay if it's just solo. And feeling alive for me, I think really looks like a lot like what Molly emanates throughout this entire series. It's pushing past my insecurities and going for things that excite me with zero hesitation, because you never know what could come from it. Like hosting this conversation tonight, like meeting these amazing people that I get to be here with tonight, and meeting some new amazing people who might just happen to be in your corner to drop by for a virtual high five. Big surprise, everybody. We have a special guest with us tonight. Please welcome Nikki Boyer. Oh my gosh. Hi, Nikki.
Hi.
Nikki is the executive producer of the show that we've just been talking about, and the co-creator, co-producer of the podcast that Dying for Sex is based off of is. And we are just so honored for you to pop by tonight.
And also the Nikki.
The Nikki, you're the Nikki, the real one.
My gosh, you guys, I am like so emotional right now. I'm
Oh,
so happy to be here. I'm just so like grateful to be a part of this. And I'm listening to you guys talk sort of from the sidelines, and I'm like listening, and I'm so just grateful. I'm just so happy that you guys have cracked yourselves open and were brave enough to watch a show that is, I'm sure hits so close to home for all of you. And whether you've watched it or not, it really doesn't matter. Just the fact that we're having this conversation and I get to be included. And I feel like Molly's here. My wind chimes were going so crazy before the call that I had to like take them down. And I was like, oh, girl is here. Like she is with us. So I don't know. I'm so happy to be here and to be included with all of you. So thank you. I just wanted to say hi.
Okay, we can all just cry together for a little bit.
Yeah.
This show has like taken over my life for the last month. I can't even hold it together. I was just like, I cannot believe that this got, first of all, greenlit
I
for
know.
mainstream TV. And I need to know how that happened. And everything about the real experience is so beautifully portrayed, whether you pick up on the nuances or not. So I have so many questions about that, but
Just thank you.
just thank you.
Just so you know, like we could do this like every Thursday or every Wednesday
Okay.
or every day for the rest of our lives. Like I could be so happy doing this, but I will, I want to just keep space for and always make space for how much of a road this is. And Molly would always get so pissed off. You hear her?
Yeah.
Times, right? I even took them down and they're still like clanking. She hated certain things about the language that was used around her journey. She was like, bitch, this is not a fucking journey. This is, oh, can we curse on this? I'm sorry.
Yes. We
Yes.
already have.
Right. She was like, this is not a journey. There's nothing adventurous about this. This is not a thing. This is like my life. It sometimes feels like a full-time job. I don't feel heard. I don't feel seen. I don't feel significant or like a woman. And so when she said she was going to leave her husband, I was like, I don't know why I think this is a great idea, but I think it is because I knew not that anybody needs to leave their husband to find themselves because my husband's one of my favorite humans, but I think you need to ask yourself the really uncomfortable questions. And she like let me into that world with her. So I was just so grateful to be on that path with her and to be a part of it. So I would just I don't know, I'd be so grateful to, if you have questions, if not, we could just be together or next time we could do something more. But I saw this on Instagram and then I stalked you like a crazy person. I was like, can I come and say hi? So it's just nice to be here.
I feel like I've been hogging all the questions. Does anybody else have a question for Nikki? I am curious about sort of the process of, sorry, now I'm just like taking it over again.
Well, you are the host,
You're
Jen.
our
So it's
facilitator.
okay.
I'm also, I'm shook at this well, and yes, I love this so much. What was it like? Because I just recently re-listened to your whole podcast again as well, and I'm just like, after watching the show especially, I'm just like, oh my, like they didn't even have to write anything. Like it's all here, it's all real stories. Like it's all, even the kick in the nuts, it's real. It's a real thing that happened. And yeah, and you must have had other people with lived cancer experience on the writing team for Dying for Sex, because it's
we had I love that we had multiple people who've gone through breast cancer. We had we had an intimacy coordinator in the writer's room as well as on set. We had um our dear friend Samadon, who has metastatic breast cancer. She came on set and we had nurses and oncology. I mean, we had so many people to try to do our best, right, to make a beautiful piece of art, but also to honor like the seriousness and get the medical things right, because we all watch TV and we're like, that's not how it happens, and it takes you out of the moment. And I don't know if it was perfect, and I don't think it was, but I think we tried our best to really honor that. My writers and my showrunners, Kim and Liz, just like we spent hours on the phone and they just, this is their dream. Like I just texted them to tell them like, I think we did something right because I'm sitting here with all these amazing humans that are saying like their biggest concern was like, we just don't want to do it wrong. We don't want to do it as a service. We want this to feel in the world of what they're going through. And so just hearing you all on the call before I jumped on, I was like, okay. Okay. I think we got some of it okay and some of it right. So thanks for just being so open and honest and letting me be a part of this, because now I feel like I can kind of exhale. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like I can. Yeah.
It's incredible what you did. And I think like that, I think Jen was saying earlier, that the show was made and is telling women's stories and women's experiences in such an authentic way is so important for that visibility of what this cancer experience is like, not only for patients, but the people, the families around them, even like the care team at the hospital as well, how that affects them and how, I think there's that barrier that's meant to be there, but they pour a little of themselves into everybody that they treat and that they come across. So to see that portrayed on the screen so authentically that like has us all saying yes, yes, is like such a great feat, and it's just truly a treasure that we get to see this within our lifetimes, and that like it's your story and you made that happen. Like I'm just like, yeah, it's incredible. And people have been asking me, oh, is it good? I'm like, you absolutely have to watch it. I'm not like making these
Right.
stories for nothing, so thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Nicole. That means so much. And some people might not be ready to watch this, and that's okay too. Like you just have to watch what you're ready for and listen to what you're ready for, and either the time will come or it won't come. Like there's no, I'm not, I think it'll find its way into you if it's meant to find its way into you. But just the fact that we're all getting to connect and talk is just like, really, really special to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that because we literally just this afternoon had a conversation and people asked, well, I'm an NBC patient, should I watch it? And my answer is like, it's unfortunately I can't tell you to watch it or not because I don't know your frame of mind, but it's like it's your own choice to watch it. But wow, what an incredible. And the other thing we also discuss is like, oh well, we know that there can't be a season 2, and I was just thinking about it like we're the season 2, we're the season
Yes.
3. Like it's our stories, like it's opening the doors for all our stories as well, and gives us so much more freedom to like share our experiences, and just yeah, gives us
Oh,
that courage.
I
So
love
thank you.
that. You're the season. That's so true. You're the
Good.
season 2. That's
That's
good.
really good.
I may not be kicking guys in the nuts, but
Now you know
or
where to do
maybe,
it,
or
how to
maybe.
do it. Yeah, if it ever comes up again. Yeah.
Listen, Margaret, we don't know what the future holds. Don't
Yeah.
limit
Right.
yourself.
I'm not holding myself back.
What makes you feel alive, Margaret?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Uh,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry, Julia, you unmiked. You go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, there's like, I know we've talked about diarrhea a lot, but not in front of Nikki. So,
Diarrhea.
the
I
diarrhea, like,
I love to talk about diarrhea.
diarrhea.
Okay, I don't know why, but please tell me more. What's happening with
It is
diarrhea?
funny. But no, I was just like, what I'm getting at is like within the first couple of episodes, like really early on, the way that like are some of the side effects that we have, like they were named and they were laughed about, cried about, or like whatever. I know like the My Chart one is a classic. But it's like those really small things, right? It's like it was nice to be able to see someone on screen telling the world about ports and about
Right,
dry vaginas, and it's like
right.
it just kind of validates it, and it's hard sometimes, like we were talking about,
Your
connecting with our
pee. The
yeah
pee. Forgot the
peeing,
pee. Chemo pee.
peeing, yes, like peeing, like when Molly peed on someone, and then I thought about a time I had sex after chemo, and then was like, oh my god, I remember reading like it could burn, and I'm like, do I say something? But maybe I won't in case something does happen. Like we'll just keep rolling, and if it burns, we'll just deal with the burn. But whatever, like it just kind of happened.
Right.
So it's like all those things that, yeah, just folks like outside of the cancer space might not get, or I had to explain scanxiety, and like people just don't get it. But I'm like, no, it's a thing. So I just appreciated the show
Oh,
was so raw and real, and the diarrhea. I just always laugh about diarrhea.
right.
I still have issues with diarrhea, but like it was funny to see it on screen. So yeah.
Love
Well,
that.
I think because I've listened to a lot of podcasts, Nikki, you you have a story where maybe you got some poop on you.
Well, I think with Molly, it was so funny because she was doing, and I'm sure listen, I'm sure she'd be fine with me telling you everything. Hello, she's like this open book, but she was doing these CBD or THC suppositories, and they were
Oh my
so
God.
big, right? And she was putting them in, and then I would come over and she'd be like, I think I'm pooping. And I'd be like, I think you are too. I think you should probably go to the bath. But it just broke down like, it didn't matter. And there was an intimacy. And at one point, I mean, full disclosure, I'm just going to go there and tell you everything. I was going, which we didn't get to in the show, which we were going to do on a season 2 if we got to do Dying for Sex. I was going through these horrible miscarriages and I was having fertility treatments and I was going through all of these pregnancy losses at the same time that she was going through her cancer. So we would be on the phone and I would be wearing a diaper and I would be bleeding in my diaper, going through a miscarriage, and she'd be having diarrhea and we'd be like, which is worse? Like, which would you think? Who wins here? And we'd have these really raw, vulnerable conversations and the intimacy that happened between the two of us because we were just so willing to be just go through what we were going through. It bonded us in the most beautiful way. But yes, I do believe I got poop on me many times and it didn't even faze me. But the creepiest thing she ever said to me, and I still think about this, she said, maybe if I die, I could just come back as your baby. And I was like, Molly, you're so screwed up. I was like, no, I haven't had any children and I don't plan it now because I hit 50 and I'm now well past the idea of having a kid and kind of oddly grateful for it. But every once in a while I hear her saying, maybe I'll come back as your child. And we had these morbid, weird, odd conversations that you just get to have with your best friends, especially when you're going through something as wild as this ride. But yeah, nothing was left in her mind. It was all said, and the same for me. And if you can find people you can do that with, which I love that we can talk about diarrhea here, I think it's amazing. And so so yay, diarrhea.
That's
If I can
showing up.
just, oh,
Yeah,
can I
Kelly,
just
go
add
ahead.
something quickly? Sorry, I'm kind of changing the subject, but Nikki, I really just wanted to applaud you for and the creators for a couple of things. And that's one is that cancer didn't have a look or behavior. So I really love that that was portrayed. And my
Mm,
disability studies major is going to come out here, but just the fact that you were showing someone with cancer or even just illness and disability in general as a sexual and sexy being was just like, to me, that was probably my favorite part, right? It's just we so often get put into a category where we're like suddenly asexual. So I
right.
just really appreciate you showing that. Thank you.
Thanks for saying that, Kelly. I will pass all of this on to my showrunners and writers because they will just be so thrilled to hear all of this. You have no idea. Thank you.
A big one for me was, I mean, there's 3 of us on the call here that were diagnosed de novo stage 4, which meant we experienced likely a lot of dismissals in getting to our diagnosis. And so there's a lot of anger and a lot of hurt around that. And just like we could, what could have happened if we had caught it earlier? How can they not take any accountability for that whatsoever? And unfortunately, our stories are only becoming more and more common as young people going through this. So thank you for showing
Mm.
young people on screen that can get cancer, because the unfortunate thing is that if it can happen to me with no family history, if it can happen to Molly, if it can happen to Julie, if it can happen to Margaret, everybody on this call, if it can happen to us, it can happen to anybody. We need to not be afraid of it. We need to name it. And we
Yeah.
need to have the tools in our back pocket to ask for what it is that we need, which is being diagnosed as early as possible in hopes for the best outcome as possible. So thank you for putting that on screen. And I really do think that I hope that we will see a ripple effect from that will hopefully save lives. So
Yeah.
thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that. Mm.
Yeah. I don't want to take up any more of your time, Nikki,
Oh
but
my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. And how many people are here?
I actually have no idea, but I've been seeing
It
the chat go off like
It's so
wild.
cool. Not that I'm like taking
it's
count,
it's
but I was
over 40, it's over 40
that's so great.
participants, and
Hi,
well,
everybody.
us here, but it's also like possibly gonna go live on
Yeah.
YouTube, so people will be able to watch it. Obviously, if you're okay with it.
Oh, absolutely.
Um,
Yes, yes.
but
Sure.
yeah. So and like Rethink represents so many. So we like we're your new BFFs.
Yeah, we're in it together.
We're
Sorry,
try-
you guys are stuck with me.
Yeah.
You're like that Nikki girl won't leave our chat. She's in the group chat now.
Don't worry, I won't poop on you.
Well, no guarantees. Come on now.
Margaret, I demand that you kick me in the nuts, please.
Okay.
Right. I love it. Well, thank you. If anything, I hope that this event tonight and moving forward reminds us all that we are not dealing with these complex. There's no one way to show cancer. There is no one way of dealing with it. But it's complex, but you're not alone. So we're all in it together. So thank you, Rethink, for the great support and giving us this platform and space. Rethink truly creates room for this kind of connection in a world that doesn't always know how to talk about illness. So we appreciate you, and it just means so much. They also have, I want to highlight that they have a bunch of resources available online, from stories written by real people in the community to tools to help you navigate this experience, and free support programming. So be sure to check out rethinkbreastcancer.com. And you will notice a survey that will pop up as you're exiting today. We love learning from your feedback. So if you have anything to share about your experience today, please share it and stay in touch. And we'll be back next Thursday with Nikki because she said so.
Yeah, it's contract, it's signed.
And we have it recorded.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys for letting me into this beautiful group of humans. I'm so grateful. And I'm here. I don't know what that means, but I'm here. I don't know how you'll need me, but just know we're all in this together. And I just adore you all.
Is there anything we can do to support you in the show?
Oh, that's so lovely. You know what? Molly's dream was to be a published author, and she wrote her book while she was dying, those last 3 months. And so I've self-published it on Amazon. And every time someone reads her, I feel like the turning the pages is just like reading the love letter that she wrote to herself. It's a bit of a darker read. So if anybody likes that, I mean, it's a real digging in and what she was thinking about before she passed, but it's called Screw Cancer, Becoming Whole. And I would just love if anybody has the space or the idea to want to, and it's about life. It's about how she lived her life, and it's about the work that she did on herself when she felt like the clock was kind of ticking, and the dick. Whoa, no, sorry, that's not what she did. I mean, well, she did that previously, but the digging deep in the real uncomfortable conversations that she had with herself. But yeah, that would be the only thing I would say. But I just thank you for letting me be here. I'm so honored. It's so crazy. I adore you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Nicole
It's just
posted
so
the link in the
surreal.
chat, and we'll
Yes.
send it out.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. You guys have the best night ever.
Thank you so
You
much.
You keep
Thank
creating
you.
great stuff. You give us a lot of hope for the future of media.
Good. Oh, good. I mean, no, for real, right? And media, yeah, we got to keep telling these kinds of stories, and we got to keep the people that are going through the real stuff need to be heard and seen and celebrated and loved. And if we can just keep doing that in art, we can change people's mindsets around things. So thanks for being part of that and being open to letting that in, even though all that you're going through at the same time personally. So thanks for being on both journeys at the same time. Journey, that word is so horrible, but you know what I mean? Like your own personal quest, as well as like just trying to make the world better. Like I think doing those both at the same time can be incredibly difficult. So thanks for doing that. Okay.
It makes our work as advocates easier when you just get to make a great show about it. So thank you. Okay, good night, everybody. We'll see you
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.